Welcome to another episode of Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 207. I wrongly put the wrong number in the chat. I'll fix that after the show. Episode 207. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Daniel from the Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gent?
Hey, it's the terrible trio this week. That's it.
Yep.
Lean and mean. Terrible trio. That's the name of the night.
Indeed. If you're not watching the NBA playoffs, or if you want to get a distraction from a certain rapper in Chicago who's talking like he's lost his damn mind, here you go.
Who is that? I don't know what you're saying.
Well, which one though? Which rapper from Chicago that lost his damn mind?
The one that they're highlighting all over cable news and talking about everywhere. That one who who apparently thinks that being in slavery was a choice, but that's neither here or there. I am your host, Michael. Episode Pound for Pound Boxing Report. For those who are new to the Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report live YouTube show, podcast, as well as a blog, discussing all things boxing. The modern wisdom when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the page and you'll be able to find the links to our channels and pages on Twitter. Twitter handle is at p4pboxingreport. I'm also linked to the Facebook page, G Plus page, Twitter, Tumblr. Also, you can look to the right of the page. You can find links to where to listen to the show. SoundCloud, Google Play Music, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks over in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. And I see Jacob is joining us as well. Thanks for joining the show, Jacob. Let's get the show started. Talking about what went down last week, the first fight I want to focus on is a fight between Jesse Magdaleno, Isaac Dogboe. For Magdaleno's WBO belt at 122 pounds. Dogboe was the interim champ. Magdaleno was the full champ. Last week was kind of a two-part show. Did an interview with Isaac Dogboe and his father, Paul, his father trainer. And the Dogboes, their prognostications, their boasting, their predictions turned out to be true as he ended up stopping Magdaleno in the 11th round. Fight took place in Philadelphia. Main event on the ESPN card. Magdaleno got off to a really good start, knocking down Dogboe in the first round via left hand. Seemed to connect early and often with the left hand. Dogboe early on didn't know what to do with it, but you can see him making adjustments here and there, and you can also see him start focusing on the body. The one thing you'll learn from this fight, for those who watched it, did that this young kid, he may not have the most experience, but one, he's tough, and two, he's a savage body puncher. He collected himself, and once he knocked down Magdaleno in the 5th round via counter right hand, it was like, uh-oh, it's on now. And you can see from that moment, he found his groove, and he gained full confidence. And from that point on, it was just like a tidal wave. Slowly but surely, he was walking down, stalking Magdaleno, landing body shots that I mentioned, landing head shots as well. Physically, in my opinion, wore him out to the point of the 11th round. It was just too much for Magdaleno. Body punches, first shot, right, first knockdown, subsequent knockdown, second knockdown in round 11 was another right hand, I believe, to the head, and Magdaleno didn't want any more. I'll start with you, Gail, ladies first. Your level of surprise when it comes to Dogboe's win, your thoughts?
You know, I thought he had a damn good chance of winning the fight. I really did. But if you'd asked me that after the first round, I would have said, well, woo, boy, apparently Isaac and his father bit off a little more than they could chew. But what was so impressive is to see him, get knocked down, get rattled like that. The lion's share of young fighters who don't have a lot of experience in the ring after something like that, they cannot recover. They cannot think that quickly. They cannot adjust. And, it's a long, hard road downhill. To get your wits about you, collect yourself, come back at it and think, all right, what did I do wrong? What do I need to prevent doing? And how do I need to go from here? I'm starting off the fight behind, almost right from the get-go. We're not even anymore. Now what do I do? Someone able to do that is a winner. That's a unique skill. Lots of guys have tough chins. Lots of guys can punch. But we all know the famous saying attributed to Mike Tyson and said by many others, everyone has a plan until they get hit. Dogbay got hit. That was not an insignificant knockdown at all. And that recovery was remarkable. The win was great, and it was a super exciting back and forth fight. But for him to recover that way, that impressed me as much as almost any performance I've seen this year in boxing. Absolutely superb fight. Good for him. Can't wait to see him again.
Sorry, I was on mute. I think what you're speaking to, Gail, are the intangibles, and you can't really make note of that until you actually see someone.
That's will, that's heart, that's determination, and it's also the ability to think in the ring, thinking logically after you've gotten smacked like that. Ask anybody. That is very, very difficult to do. To have the fortitude to gather your wits about you, and then the determination to just come right through that, almost the ability to set it aside and ignore that. That's tremendous concentration. Really impressive.
I'll go to you, Jacob, but let me make this statement first. When I interviewed the Dogbay's son and his father trainer, the thing that Paul Dogbay made note of, as I asked him about the sparring sessions that him and his son and Magdaleno had in the past, as well as what folks like Carl Frampton and Celio Santa Cruz, was that Paul made an emphasis to note that even though his son had limited experience, none of those guys could break his foundation. That proved to be the point after that first round. Yes, Jesse Magdaleno knocked him down, but he didn't break his foundation. He stayed the course, Isaac. And over time, you could see his persistence paying off. I'll go to you, Jacob, because last week you said that Isaac Dogbay was going to do it. He was going to beat Jesse Magdaleno, give you the opportunity to, one, humble brag a bit, and two, give your analysis, your breakdown of how Isaac Dogbay did it and became WBO junior featherweight champion of the world.
Yeah, I'm not gonna brag because I get as many wrong as I get right. So I mean, I think for me with this fight, a big factor was the time off that Magdaleno had, and another thing that I mentioned was Magdaleno's biggest win at that point was against Donier, but again that was a faded Donier. That's not a peak Donier. So as impressive as that looks on paper, I wasn't like as high on Magdaleno. But he did catch him in that first round, and he shook him up in a couple other rounds too. But to Dogboy's point, he was very like Gail was talking about. He was very smart to gather his wits about him and, go back to the fundamentals, like the body attack and, just, trying to land the punches and wear on and Magdaleno. And that was the right strategy, in my opinion, was to take him deep because Magdaleno seemed to run out of steam at some point. And then when he was getting caught, he was basically breaking down. And in his fight previous to that against was it Juarez?
Cesar Juarez.
Cesar Juarez. He showed kind of that tenacity and that toughness, and it was just a matter of time. Like once he caught him, I mean he caught him multiple times, but he caught him. He's got a good he's got a little pop to him, and he'll wear you down. So to me, it was a good fight. It was, I knew it was going to be a close fight, and I just think that Magdaleno didn't. He might have had a chance to, defeat Dogboy if he had maybe pushed it a little, pushed it like faster, kind of like how Neri did against what's his was it Yamanaka? When he missed weight, and we were all saying, we were all saying that he needed to go out there and sprint because of there was talks that Magdaleno was having trouble making weight, even though he did make weight, but there was talks about that too. So him being inactive, him maybe struggling to make weight, he's not going to be able to go the long distance. He's going to have to sprint and get his guy out of there. So maybe that was a game plan that wasn't executed by the Magdaleno camp. But good fight. It was competitive and until obviously the later rounds where it started to get a little wider. And congratulations to Dogboy and his team.
I'll go to you, Daniel. Jacob alluded to the rumors that Jesse Magdaleno was having some issues getting down to weight, especially given that he's coming off of a year layoff. What do you attribute that to the defeat of Magdaleno, or was it just what Dogboy was doing in the ring? A combination of both? Your thought?
It's a combination of both, because obviously the layoff didn't hurt because it resets your body, and what it also does, like I said, it gets you a little bit lazy. And when you're not in camp and you're lazy, you tend to let your weight balloon a little bit when you're a fighter, and when you're that small, it's very tough for you to take it back. Now, he did have good pop in the first round. It showed that he wanted to close the show early, but it's just tenacity. Like, if you spend a lot of your camp trying to make weight, and the other guy is primed and ready to get with the weight, it's going to be a tough fight. That's what happened. Like, Magdaleno got the first round knockout, but Dogboy, through just sheer tenacity and willpower, was able to hurt Magdaleno. And ultimately, like I said, in the fifth round, he rocked him. He rocked him pretty bad in the fifth round. And from then on, you can tell Magdaleno didn't have the foot speed, didn't have the movement to keep Dogboy at bay for the duration of the fight. Now, Magdaleno himself, like I said in a post-fight interview, did allude to the fact that he felt that the layoff did hurt him, and what sounded to be was going to be his last fight at 122. He said he's going to look at the fight and most likely test the featherweights. It was when you already started thinking about moving up, you might as well. So that's going to be a very, very interesting look into this fight. And for Dogboy, he's pretty much the perfect opponent almost that a guy like, let's say, Guillermo Rigondeaux might need to rehab himself, because that's the type of fighter that comes forward, is going to be relentless, and is able going to test out to see if what happened with Lomachenko for Rigondeaux was a fluke or not. But I also did like the sportsmanship. Like, Dogboy formally apologized for the comments that he made. Like, they embraced each other, and it was a much better fight than I expected. I'll say that. It's a much better fight than I expected. I did pick Magdaleno to win, but watching that fight, as soon as you saw it from the fifth round, you knew which way it was going to go.
I'm going to have an open question here for everybody. Focusing on what Daniel said about Dogboy, his last point about Dogboy and the future, and how he could be a really good opponent for Rigo. Let's focus on that and expand the conversation, looking at the 122-pound landscape. Magdaleno, he'll probably move up to 26. You got Asawa IBF champion Daniel Roman, BA, BC is Ray Vargas from Mexico. Dog Bay's mandatory is Diego De La Hoya, but he also has some issues making weight. Where do you see Isaac Dogbe in a 122-pound division? That I'm looking at it because we don't know what Rigo is going to do next. It's pretty open.
That's what it depends on. It depends on Rigo. Sorry, Jacob.
No, go ahead, man.
No, like I said, it depends. It depends on what Rigondeaux does, because other than that, probably a good fight for him if Rigo isn't there is Ray Vargas, because Vargas does show good technical skills, and it won't be soon though, because obviously I do think that Vargas is on the undercard of Saddam Ali fight. So that'll be a good testing to it. Miguel Roman, that's a very, you mentioned the name, and Osawa, that's an interesting prospect. It is wide open. It is wide open should Rigo not go back. If Rigo goes back, then almost by default, you have to say the class is Rigo.
Let me correct myself. Diego De La Hoya is not mandatory, but he is number one contender. Again, Gail and Jacob, your thoughts on the future of Dog Bay at junior featherweight?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. You have kind of a limited log jam up at the top with these guys. Magdaleno, obviously, you've got Vargas's. The next guy underneath him, Roman. But who is technically sitting at the top, love him or hate him, is Luis Nery. Which would be very interesting. I don't know he's quite ready for that, but that's something to look at. You've got guys that are sort of in the bottom portions of the top 20 that you could toss him in with. Just to keep him busy. Guys like, the name that sort of jumps out at me, and I don't know where he is in his career at this moment, is a guy like Tomoki Kameda. That'd be damn fun. That would be a lot of fun. But it's an interesting division. Who's also in that division? And I'd be curious how makeable a fight this is. A guy that we all know pretty well out here is Randy Caballero out of Palm Springs. Now he is not ranked that high, but he's sitting on a 21-4 or 24-1 record. And his last fight was on the Canelo Triple G undercard. So he hasn't had a fight in a bit. So he's ready to go. It's makeable. Could be. The other guy, we have to sort of see what happens. And they fight next weekend. Ray Vargas, as you mentioned, Ray Vargas has a fight. Depending on how his opponent performs, it's a guy out of Armenia in LA. Yeah, that's unusual anymore. Part of the Eastern European invasion here in Southern California. Azat Hova, I can't ever say this guy's name. Everyone calls him Crazy A. Hovhannissian. And they're fighting at Turning Stone next weekend. So depending on what happens in that fight with Vargas, that's certainly a possibility. The other guy that's floating around out there as an opponent, and he's certainly not in the top tier, but makeable because he's unfortunately trying to build his way back off a loss, is Ronnie Rios. So that's a possibility. And he's got his losses in his career are to Vargas, Hovhannissian, and then a couple of years ago, Castellanos. So Rios would be an interesting test because he has faced some of the other names that we know, and we can measure him against Dog Bay in that way. You're almost testing the opponents down the line by proxy when you get a guy that's fought them all, like Rios has. And there's a whole slew of these guys, a half dozen of them in Southern California. Bring Dog Bay out here. We'd love to see him.
I want to give a shout out to Bo from Truth and Facts and Three Kings. He couldn't make it tonight. He's suffering from the flu. I also think Tony Mansusi, Fink, who are listening live in the chat. I see Scorsese is joining us. Thanks for joining us. Give your thoughts on the future for Dog Bay, Jacob, and then give Scorsese the opportunity to give his analysis of Dog Bay's win over Jesse Magdalena.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, a lot of the things that Daniel and Gail said, I mean, I'd love to see him. I just want to, with a fighter like Dog Bay, is that I just want to see him active. I hate for fighters, especially with a win like this, to stay on the shelf for too long and not be able to get fights. So, I mean, any of those variety of matchups, I'd love to see. I really think he's got talent. He's got that style. He's gonna kind of come at you and there's which is pleasing in my opinion. And so if we can get him in with some of the top ranked guys, I mean, that's, to me, you just see the best fighting the best, and and you can kind of clear out the division and then see if he's gonna move up or try to get a belt in another division once he cleans out his division. But yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to see him. Like Gail said, if we can get him out here to the West Coast, I mean, be more than happy to go to see him fight again.
Scorsese, your thoughts on Isaac Dogbay's stoppage win over Jesse Magdalena?
I had heard the name Isaac Dogboy a lot. I never, with me getting away from 22, and I felt like the division wasn't doing it for me, so I kind of got away from it. I never heard the name going into. I had heard the name. I had never watched him fight. I don't think I'm gonna miss him fight again if they keep him in the States. And I give Jesse Magdaleno a lot of credit too, because he looked like he was finna end the night early. Everything that was touching Dogbo was shaky legs on the canvas. Jesse just had unlike Broner the other week, he was warmed up as soon as he got in the ring. Now the inactivity may have done something to him. I'm not sure about that, or maybe it's just Dogbo that done it to him. Maybe a bit of both. The body work was excellent. That right hand that he slipped the jab and came with it was either hook or a jab he slipped, and he came with his own right hand and knocked him down. If he would have went to sleep on that shot, could have easily been the knockout of the year that we talking about right there. Great heart from him, stamina. I don't know about the future because, like I said, the division to me is, I know the names. I hear some of the names that just haven't been keeping up with them. Like we'll see, man. This the type of dude that makes you want to see it. That was potentially one of the fights of the year. I think it can be outdone. But as of right now, I might have to rate that as one of them. Good performance from the 122 pounders.
Let's move on to the card in HBO. The card on HBO that took place later Saturday evening, highlighted by Daniel Jacobs' decision win over Selecki. Good competitive fight. I'll go to you first, Jacob. For those who didn't know who Selecki was, they know about him now. He was right there with Daniel Jacobs, in my opinion, from beginning to end. Very skilled guy. He made Jacobs work pretty hard to get this win. The key was Jacobs knocked down in the 12th round. That finalized his win, in my opinion. But again, overall, just like Dog Bay and Magdaleno, for me, really, really good fight.
Yeah, it was an excellent fight. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't know who Selecki was either. I knew Polish, middleweight that, had an undefeated record at the time. He didn't have that many KOs, but I believe his last like 7 out of his last 8 fights were all like KOs or TKOs. But he stood in there. I mean, he was game, man. He was standing there with Jacobs, and Jacobs, showed a lot of his skills. Whether it was speed or the combos or just he was touching Selecki a lot, and I thought, man, this Selecki doesn't watch out. He's gonna get knocked out, but he kept on coming, and I think Daniel Jacobs comfortably won this fight, and of course he knocked him down in the 12th, which gives him a more comfortable lead. But there was some rounds in there, like towards I would say maybe I think it was the 5th round or 4th round, and then a couple towards later that Selecki, I thought, stole those rounds, and he looks like he could be a tough out for anybody. But good win from Daniel Jacobs, and he looked like he was trying to get him out of there. It was a good kind of activity win for him. And hopefully, we can see a fight with him with somebody at the top of the division. I know, he wants that rematch with Triple G. He's talked Canelo, and the Charlo's name is in there, and Billy Joe Saunders, whoever. I mean, he's basically has the right attitude. He'll take on whoever's at the top that's going to get him to the promised land. He wants to fight. So I like that attitude.
Gail, and then you, Scorsese, your breakdown, your thoughts, I should say, on Jacob's tougher than expected win over Selecki.
It was a little tougher than everyone thought. Nobody knew who Selecki was. He's had no exposure here in the United States at all. Seems to be a good guy, agreeable. He was pleasant during the run-up to the fight. He took it very seriously, very earnestly. He clearly has a good chin. He scored some shots of his own, so he made it a competitive, fun fight to watch. And he did win some rounds from Jacob, no question about it. The knockdown sealed the deal. I don't think Jacob, and clearly on the cards, he didn't absolutely have to have it to win. But I do think it was important at this stage of his career that he come off the fight with a little distance between him and Selecki, or there would have been some question marks. And the truth is, earlier this week after the fight, Abel Sanchez, Golovkin's trainer, more or less took credit and said, listen, every guy Golovkin fights, after that, they're trash. Look at Jacob. Couldn't stop Selecki. So there was a little of that finger pointing going on, clearly looking down the road toward, potential rematch to get in his head just a little bit. But it was a fine effort. I'm always happy to see Daniel Jacobs in the ring. Boxing could use a lot more guys like that, bottom line. So it's a good fight.
Scorsese.
I'm one of the few people, and I've seen a few on Twitter. I had Selecki winning the fight. I actually went into the 12th thinking that Danny Jacobs not only needed a knockdown, but a stoppage. And when he got the knockdown, I was excited for him because I'm like, yo, that's, you need that. It looked like the guy was about to be out. That's what kind of shot it was. But Selecki answered every bell, bro. Every bell. Jacobs landed a good body shot. Okay, well, take this right hand and get off of me. And, and I'm going to outwork you and outdo you through the fight is what I seen punch stats a few times. I'm just like, that's not what I'm seeing, HBO. I'll go to Twitter and I'm hearing that people saying, man, I don't agree with nothing HBO's saying right now. To be fair, those same people did say, but I had Jacobs winning. I just felt like I was going through round after round at times saying, yo, Danny Jacobs didn't do enough. And this guy's, he's not being great, but he's outdoing you. And that's all he has to do to win that fight. So, I don't know, man. I mean, I've never been super high on Jacobs, but there's just a lot of flaws there. Like, the inaccuracies in the shots. He misses a lot of shots. He starts slapping and getting amateur-like a lot, off balance a lot. And Selecki was just, he was calm, cool, and collected. I guess the Lecky is part of the collected part with him. I don't know how that would work, but he's something like that. He was a cool customer. I saw him fight the guy Charles Centeno, and he just worked him out 10 rounds. Eventually stopped him. So I saw him once, and I was thinking, okay, Danny's not fighting a complete bum, but you're number 2 ranked. He's number 10 ranked. You're supposed to be taking care of business. I don't think he did, man. I like some of his body work, but the man couldn't quit getting hit, and his face showed it. Like, we could say Sulecki had no power, but Jacob's face said you was feeling a little bit of everything he threw, and a few times when he hit him, I'm not saying he stumbled and fell around the ring. You would just see that slight buckle that made you feel like, yo, he got you right. One replay I recall, Jacob, it's a replay from behind Jacob. Sulecki lands a damn right hand, and Jacob's face just slow motion, just shifts everything, just like waves, just going like waves in the ocean to his ears and shit. I'm like, man, this dude was touching him all night long. So I thought he was winning the fight. I didn't see many people agree, but the people that did agree with me, they found my tweet and found a way to like it and retweet it. But at the end of the day, Sulecki got to bounce back, or Jacobs got to look better in his next fight, or I don't know what's next for Jacobs.
Your thoughts, Daniel, and getting to the future here for Daniel Jacobs as well as Sulecki. Where do you see both of them going?
This was supposed to be a showcase fight for Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
This was supposed to be a fight that should highlight him, get a quick knockout, and probably have him call out Triple G. But it turned out to be a tougher fight because Sulecki knows how to fight. He did very well. As soon as he landed the first right hand flush, and not only that, adjusted to the adjustment that Jacobs made when he started to fight Southpaw, it turned out to be a really, really good fight. Now, I will say, yeah, if Sulecki was probably a bit more powerful, he might have at least knocked down Jacobs with the way he was landing the right hand. Now, like I said, the saving grace for a lot of people was the right hand. Like I said, I agree with the decision, though. Jacobs did do a little bit better work, more and far between, as far as the future for both. Sulecki's last 3 fights were at junior middleweight. And with middleweight kind of still being a little bit logjammed at the top, junior middleweight might be a good place for him because obviously there's a good plethora of fighters to choose from there in case he wants to fight in. When it comes to Danny Jacobs, I think they're going to try to do Jermall next because, and in a way, that actually helps out Golovkin. In that his 2 mandatories are facing each other. So it eliminates the prospect of the WBC or the WBA enforcing a mandatory. It doesn't do anything as far as the IBF. He has to still deal with Derevchenko, but it opens up a good plethora of avenues, and you can tell with Danny Jacobs that he said he may want the belt holders, but he really wants Jermall. Like, they talked a lot of smack that last time they were in Brooklyn. So it should be a pretty good future. And we'll probably see Danny Jacobs again this year. And who knows, Jermall Charlo might be the next PBC fighter to show up on HBO.
I think it's very possible. And, with Eddie Hearn in the mix and Matchroom and everybody friendly with him, it makes things a lot easier on the back end, making it all work. Jacob said he wanted to fight 3 times this year. Well, it's May, folks. You need to get a move on. I'd love to see an all-American middleweight brawl with Charlo. I think that's a very sellable fight, especially in the East Coast. And I think that's a very exciting, good-looking fight for both of them.
I'm sorry. Your thoughts on the future of Jacobs as well as Sulecki, Scorsese, and Jacob?
Seems like everybody wants Jacobs Charlo. well, I think it should be Charlo Jacobs. Honestly, that should be built that way. I just feel like one guy hasn't even had a title, so let's let's quit pushing him as I don't know. It's just I feel like Danny Jacobs gets a little more praise than he's actually earned, and Jamal Charlo gets a little more stick. And he actually been a titleist, actually defended his title, actually been told by people you're going to be beat by that guy you're defending against. So I don't mind that fight. I honestly don't. I think it might turn out to be a flat out whooping with Danny Jacobs showing how open he was. Um, you know what? You could say he wants Charlo right now, but after a fight like that, when you've just found out, like Daniel said it, he said it. If that guy had more power, so if you know you dealing with a vicious right hand and a nasty left hook and a uppercut, Charlo's shown all of that. So if you know you're dealing with that, maybe you're thinking, all right, man, I can get that UK Billy Joe money. You probably still get beat. I won't put it past you. But I don't believe Danny Jacobs is just that keen. First and foremost, when they're in each other's face, he says, "Okay, you drop your fight, I drop my fight, now I fight you." Danny Jacobs said, "No, it don't work like that." After that, I didn't need to hear no more. So I don't believe the man is keen on his fight as people pushing it. The people pushing him toward that fight seem to be. But for Sulecki, man, nobody even knows his promoter, and he just beat from my opinion, he just beat the number 2 middleweight. Yeah, you think Frank Warren is gonna put Billy Joe Saunders in there, and Billy Joe said, "I don't know this guy. I don't feel like training. Nobody's, you know what I mean? No, they're gonna risk this WBO title with Billy Joe saying, "I'm be a blubber butt during this camp. I'm not gonna really train hard because I don't know who this person is, and he's not gonna sell a lot of tickets like David Lemieux helped me do." Nah, man. Hey, he better hope the rankings are kind. That's all I can say with Sulecki, but I don't know.
Your thoughts, Jacob?
I mean, I want to see that Charlo Jacobs fight. And I was actually talking with a buddy of mine because, we saw that video where they were kind of going back and forth, and on social media they've been kind of jawing at each other. I mean, Charlos are jawing at everybody. Let's be honest. But to me, the one intangible that is in that fight is that we don't know how good Charlo's chin is at middleweight because he hasn't fought somebody with what I would say considerable pop, or he hasn't been hit with a good shot. And Jacobs can bang, but if that fight gets made, I'm picking Charlo right now. I think we know that Jacobs can be dropped, and we know he can be hurt. And Charlo's he's a big dude, and he's got a wicked jab. And Jacobs got hit with a lot of right hands. And I don't know. I could see a scenario where Charlo ices him, but I mean, I think it'd be a damn good fight. It gives some clarity to the middleweight division and in the rightful number one contender after Golovkin does his mandatory with the IBF. So why not? I mean, it'd be Charlo Jacobs fighting Golovkin or each other or any of those combinations. To me, those are all really solid fights.
Let's move to the undercard of this HBO doubleheader in New York. First of all, read some comments here in the chat. Who's the comments from Tony Man 2C in reference to our earlier discussion about Dog Bay and Magdaleno in the future for Dog Bay. He mentioned Dog Bay and Nery. Bo was saying in response, yes, that would be a good bout, and Nery can pop. He mentioned Rigo. He said he don't know if Rigo's intriguing right now, given what we just saw with him and Lomachenko. See, Gus has also joined us. Yeah, Gus, give me a quick second, Gus, and I'll send you the link. Just give me a quick second. Tony Mansusi also said he agrees Jacob can fight Saunders, make that fight happen first. Big Baby Miller fought on the undercard of Jacobs and Sulecki, fighting Johan Duhaupas. I mean, look, Big Baby, he got the win, and his punch rate was high. He was active throughout. And at a certain level, you can be impressed by that given his size. My problem is, Scorsese, is that his size. This dude keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger in there. 304 for this fight, 21 pounds
Cheeseburgers.
bigger, 21 pounds bigger than he was in his last fight. I don't know what's worse, the fact that he keeps getting bigger or the excuses he uses to defend the fact that he gets bigger. Yeah, he got the win against the Duhapas who can't punch worth a lick, but still, I'm concerned here that this dude is not in shape. Your thoughts?
I like Big Baby, but whoever he buying all these food stamps from, he need to delete out his phone, man. This is ridiculous, man. He looked good for 3 rounds. He's slipping, and it was cute. Yeah. It's just like, man, for the first
For 3 rounds.
Yeah, for the first 3 rounds, you're thinking, no, man, this guy just supposed to be big. That's what he's doing. He got some of the best technique at heavyweight, doing whatever he wanted to do, just walking. And he's doing all of this as he comes forward. That's some skill. Then the huffing and puffing start. He did admit post-fight that there was some weight he had to get to. He didn't say a number. I would have liked to heard a number. And I don't know where we could go from there, but of course, man, the man, it seemed like no matter what weight he got energy to throw the punches. It's just that he started getting hit way, way, way too much. And that slickness that he had coming forward, that just started to diminish. He only had that for like 15 seconds of every round after that. So is he a contender if he's in shape? Hell yeah. Yes. I didn't believe. But for whatever reason, last night made me believe. I don't know. Last week made me believe. The man just sits in front of you, can slip and just play with you. So yeah, man, in shape. I'm a Big Baby fan. I'm a Big Baby supporter and believer. But I don't know what in shape is, and he obviously doesn't either.
Yeah, you just stole my last point. He doesn't know what in shape is either. Your thoughts, Gail?
You know what? Make it 2 of us. Love me some Big Baby. But Big Baby was big. Oh, my Lord, he was big. All right. So when he fought in his last bout, after he weighed 268. 268. That was up 20 from the previous bout. And everybody said, 268? Holy cow, man. You need to get a grip on that size. And he said, well, I had gone down to 248. I didn't feel good there, and I'm just going to train for strength. And, it isn't like he's got to make weight. So, did any of us think he was going to tip the scales past 300 pounds? Holy cow. Having said that, he didn't look it. But that's a large, large man. So if you're going to be that big as a heavyweight, you should punch like you weigh 300 pounds. And he doesn't. He has got to work on his size to power ratio and his strength ratio to his size. And, is it a lack of technique? Is it what? He's apparently decided to go for the volume approach, and it is impressive on a heavyweight. He averaged more punches around, Jarrell Miller averaged more punches around than either Danny Jacobs or Sulecki did. Which is pretty amazing. The problem is too many of them are just not counting. So if he is really going to tangle with the guys at the top of the division, which he certainly is, he's got to rethink that a little bit. And, a little more killer and less filler is what Big Baby needs, and a little less cheeseburgers. Okay. He can joke all he wants about hard work, dedication, and cheeseburgers, but man, that's a big, big boy. But how can you not like him? And if you didn't get emotional with his relationship with the young cancer survivor, Lily Weaver, you have a heart of stone, and I don't even want to know who you are. You know, and very much like Jacob, you know, a good man first, the kind of people we do need in boxing. But he's got to make some adjustments.
Daniel, Jacob, your thoughts?
This was Big Baby's audition for Joshua. And I do believe when it comes to stamina, despite the fact that he's 300 pounds, he has a surprisingly good cardiovascular base. Because normally a guy weighing 300 pounds doesn't do the punch output or have the same level of energy that Big Baby did throughout the fight. That being said, you could tell that he was trying to go for the gusto. He did mention, I think, that the measuring stick was the 11th round. If he could knock out Duhaupas before the 11th round, then he says he's more powerful than Wilder. Obviously, that didn't happen, but what also happened was the fact that when the fight was on the inside, Duhaupas was able to land his jab, was able to land counter right hand, was able to land uppercuts. So despite that punch output, despite the cardio base, there are a lot of defensive flaws the Big Baby still needs to fix before he gets into the ring with either Joshua or Wilder. Because Joshua, okay, he can literally have 50 or 60 pounds on him in the fight, but Joshua will probably just pick him apart based on technique. And Wilder, yes, he'll probably outweigh Wilder close to 100 pounds. But Wilder's long, Wilder's athletic, and like I said, if Duhaupas was able to land his right hand flush the way he did against Big Baby, if Wilder lands that right hand, it might be night-night for Big Baby. So he has to fix some things. We know he called out Joshua. We know that's supposedly the plan that Eddie Hearn wants to do next for AJ, but I wouldn't say he's ready yet.
Your thoughts, Jacob?
I'm with Gell and Scorsese on this, though. I like Big Baby, man. He's entertaining, and he's fighting. He's staying active, and he has a goal, and he has a grip on something. They're called cheeseburgers. So maybe if he gets a little bit more in shape, he can be. I think he can be competitive. And the one thing about heavyweights is that, and specifically for heavyweights, is that when they throw punches, because they're so big and because he's so big, he might not be the knockout puncher that maybe some of the other guys are, but at heavyweight, if you can land the right punch with enough weight behind it, you're going to put you'll put somebody to sleep. So I think it's an interesting, kind of wild card to the division, because I do think he has some skill. I think it would be better if he was a little bit more in shape, but I mean, the output he's doing, and he's still moving, through a 12-round fight, carrying that much weight. The only thing would be is, how good of a shot can he take? Wilder, I think that he can definitely land on Wilder. But if Wilder lands on him first and hurts him, because we know he's got that power, it could be, game over for him. The Joshua fight, again, it's interesting because it's heavyweight, and we know Joshua, he's been down before, and these guys can be hurt. So he's always has that, in his. It gives him a chance, in my opinion. So, I'd love to see him fight, either one of those guys.
Was anyone able to see Katie Taylor's bout against Victoria Bustos? I know Jim Lampley, he spoke highly of the bout, unification bout at lightweight. Taylor ended up winning by decision. Was anyone able to catch that bout? If not, we can move on and talk about the news.
I did catch some of that bout. So if you want a few highlights, I'll give you a few highlights. It was a unification fight. Katie Taylor unified the WBA and IBF lightweight world titles. It was a unanimous decision. It was a overwhelming unanimous decision, I might add. The cards were 99-91 twice and 98-92. So that extends her unbeaten professional record to 9 fights. She's now got 2 of the titles. She wants to unify all 4 titles. Bustos is a little past her prime, to be fair. She put up as good an effort as she possibly could. Taylor called her brave. I think that's probably fair. It's just a factor of women's boxing that there's just not the depth of competition. So when new emerging champions start moving up the ranks in the division, and they start fighting the women at the top who tend to be, significantly older than they are frequently. It's just the way it goes. So it was a very dominant fight. What's so great about Katie Taylor, and I rarely, when I'm talking about women athletes, but Katie fights like a man. And the reason I say that is she's not a headhunter and she's not a volume puncher. She has the fundamentals down cold as far as going to the body, getting someone worn out, and only then, starting to mix up her punches. And she is not afraid to be in close either, which makes her a very exciting women's fighter to watch. So anybody out there who thinks, I don't like watching women fight, or you have a friend who says, I don't really like watching women fight, they need to watch Katie Taylor. They will change their minds. And women's boxing is having more than a moment right now. We're going to talk about the card this weekend, where we're going to have our first ever women's bout on HBO Boxing. First ever. What the hell took so long? I'm going to stop right there. Good fight. Good fight. Good, good effort. Katie Taylor's the real thing. Forget the fact she only has 9 professional fights. She is a pro, and she is scary enough. It's only getting better. The interesting discussion is that down the road, she moves up in weight a few divisions and takes on Cecilia Brakas, who we're going to see this weekend. That is the women's super fight that has all of us going nuts.
And speaking of Cecilia Brakas, Bo in the chat said to tell you, Gail, that he's jealous that you was able to get a shot with Cecilia Brakas toward Media Day. And
well, that's a funny story. She was there, sort of unofficially, but talking to media and enjoying herself. And it was a pleasure to meet her thoroughly. And she was going to get out of the way because the Media Day was for the main event. But she wanted to have her photo taken against the big banner again, in the gym, because her name was on it, right? Here's the, Golovkin versus Martirosyan, and right underneath there is Brakas and Reese. She wanted her photo with that big advertising banner. And for some reason, she said, hey, she had her phone in her hand, and she said, hey, can I get someone to take a photo of me? And everybody just standing there. And I said, sure, hand me your phone. So I snap her off a bunch of her photos and her trainer, and then she said, well, hand me yours. And then her trainer said, no, I'll take the picture. Get in there with Cecilia. Next thing I know, I've got my arms arm in arm. Nice woman. And she's scary tough, man. She and Katie Taylor would make for quite the fight.
Hey, they didn't have that hurt, because I've actually been tweeting out. They have an alternate poster with her and Reese as the, with their pictures on the main title, and then Golovkin Martirosyan on the bottom. It says
that is really nice. They did not have that one up that day, and it was not their event. They had their Media Day this week. quite a few days later. So, yeah, people who don't think they like women's boxing, who haven't seen a fight recently, need to look at the current crop of title holders, and they'll change their minds.
And Gus, I see you asked for the link for the show. Check your Skype. I sent you a private link to join us via Skype, so check that. Let's go into some news here. Looks like there are plans to, well, let me preface this by saying a couple of weeks ago, we talked about Mikey Garcia made the decision to move back down to 135 pounds after winning a title belt at 140 in the last fight. Well, it looks like there are plans taking place, or in the works, I should say, for Garcia, who I believe has a version of the WBC belt, to fight Robert Easter Jr., who's the IBF champion at 135 pounds. Looks like they're trying to set that fight up for the summer, either late July, early August. Staples Center's LA. I'll just open it up for everybody here. Your thoughts on that unification bout?
That's titillating. And I'm kind of glad that Mikey is not going to sit around and wait for the fallout of Loma Linares to see his next action. Go with the guy that you've been rumored to fight with before. Unify the titles. And like I said, it makes the fight with Linares, like I said, should Linares beat Lomachenko, that much bigger, because then now 3 belts are on the line. And then the only one left is obviously the WBO. So that is going to be very interesting should it happen. Because remember, we were almost thought of it. Robert Easter himself thought that, okay, the fight's made official, only to turn out that it wasn't. So until they say truth, I'm starting to get the feeling that when they, similar to what Jacob is, you won't believe it until the two guys are actually in the ring. But it's a good step forward, and I'm glad Mikey's keeping himself active.
I see EJ Boxing Live has joined us. I'm gonna give him the opportunity before I go around everybody else with the question on hand about Garcia and Robert East. I'm gonna give EJ an opportunity to give his breakdown of the fights we talked about earlier, mainly the Magdaleno Dogbe bouts, Jacobs and Selecki, as well as Big Baby Miller's win over Duwapas.
Yeah, how you doing, people? EJ Boxing Live here, Michael. Glad to be over. Ain't been over for a minute. Big up to Gail, Daniel, Jacob. What's up, Low Place, LP? I'll be honest with you. The Miller fight, it was like Miller's just like it's boring. I can't
because I know a lot of people was giving you the business. I wasn't to hang out with you Saturday night.
I think he's terrible. And he's just awful. And the Selecki fight, I watched it. I just fell asleep. I was bored. The Jacob fight. Be honest with you, that shouldn't be. I mean, it's disrespectful, but I'll just be honest. I wasn't really in it. The only fight was the fight of the weekend was Isaac Dalbo versus Jesse Magdalena. That fight was amazing. That's why we love boxing. You know, Isaac came into the fight. You know, Ghana. You know, he's obviously based in the UK. I actually saw him when he was in Brixton, South London. Michael's interviewed him over his social media, met him and his father, and obviously with what's her name again? Not Marcia. What's her name again?
Melissa.
I've met Melissa loads of times because she her fighters of AJ Carter at the time, and you know, she'd been telling me about Isaac for a minute. You know, he's done everything he ever asked of him, and he got his shot, and he went out there, he got floored. You know, to get back up and to finish it. It was epic. It was that's what you like boxing. And you know, and you got a lot of news about AJ Wilder and stuff. But these guys need to get more shine. And he's not even that. He's talking about unification. He's talking about unification. You know, he's saying like a Zuma Nelson. He might be the second coming of Zuma Nelson for real. Really, he's only going to get better. The guy's amazing. You know, for his height. And he overcoming it, you know, from Ghana. It was just really good story, good feel boxing story, and it shows that, you know, why we watch boxing. I think there should be more that stuff, covering more of that stuff. But as you know, all the bullshit usually gets covered in boxing. But that regardless of anything, was the fight of the night. And really, nothing ever came close to it last weekend. Nothing really in terms of, I know there was some fights on Box Nation, but to me, that was the fight of the night, and that it stops right there for me. That's it. I don't go no further than Isaac Dogboe. I'm really interested to see what he does next, and it was great for boxing. It was just great for him boxing and all the fans who watch boxing. And Jesse McLean, I know what he needs to do. He needs to be more active. Is what he needs to do. He needs to get active, and hey, maybe they do a rematch. Let's do a rematch. I don't know, but it was a great night of boxing for real.
Give you a quick word on the news about a proposed fight being set up between Mikey Garcia and Robert Easter.
That's a good fight.
Okay, go ahead.
That's a great fight. That's a great fight. I like that fight right there. Mikey's good, man. Mikey's doing what you want of your fighter. He's daring to be great, and he's challenging himself for every fight. And in that respect, Easter's gonna have trouble, man, because he's struggling a lot of times in the fight. I think he struggles at the weight. If they're going, I'm gonna favor Mikey in that fight, man. He looks really good. And he's going against very good competition coming into that fight. If that fight was to be made, I'd favor Mikey, and it's good for boxing. I'd love to see that fight. Maybe it's gonna be a Mayweather and Corrales type of fight. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be a Hearns and Hagler type of fight. I doubt that one. More Mayweather and thing, because Robert Easter, he's a bit clumsy, and Mikey's very, very efficient, economical with his punches. Should be a great fight. If that fight was to be made, I look forward to that fight. Really, a really intriguing fight.
I'm going to open up this proposed fight for everybody else here on the panel. Your thoughts on this bout possible between Garcia and Trouble Easter? And for anybody can jump in, please do.
I actually think that, I want to see the fight, but I think Garcia is going to kill Easter. Easter, what he's shown me in his last fights is that he doesn't use his advantages, his length, and he kind of makes fights tougher on himself. And Garcia is a smart, very fundamentally sound boxer. So I could see this being a very one-sided victory, possible knockout by Garcia.
Gail Scorsese, your thoughts?
Yeah, I am in lockstep with Jacob on this one all the way along. I don't think Easter has lived at all up to the potential we thought he had. There's always a chance that he could surprise us and step up his training, but I don't think so. I'm very glad to see Garcia busy. That is really important for him at this step of his career. He cannot be screwing around, talking about promotional issues or waiting or playing games. He just needs to keep in the ring and keep busy. It's the best possible thing you could do, no matter who the opponent is. And I'm fine with Easter.
Yeah, I am too. I'm just glad that Mikey Garcia is not BSing here. Of course, we would like to have him fight the winner, Linares or Lomachenko or whatever. But since those two are fighting each other, and Garcia decided to move down to lightweight, why not fight Easter? Easter, based off his last couple of performances, that looked good in there for him against Mikey Garcia. He would not only lose, he would get knocked out. But still, that's a good fight to be made. I'm not mad at it. Your thoughts, Scorsese?
Yeah, I'm favoring Garcia to knock him out. But I two things. One thing Gail said, one thing Daniel said. Daniel, I remember what Gail said first. She said Easter could always surprise us, and with that height and reach, it's always a chance that night we picking against him, some clicks and it just happens. And so I don't put it past him to win this fight. But if I judge by just what I've seen, I think he's going to get knocked out, and Mikey knows he's hittable, so therefore you're going to be training to throw your big shots and put him down. You've seen him hurt. Now you want to see, okay, if my power bigger than other people's, and put him down. I just put down a 140-pounder. If I'm Garcia, I just not going down. You're going. You long and lanky. You're going. I'm testing the legs and that chin. Now, like Daniel said, they told us this before. Mikey Garcia then made videos saying, well, I didn't take the fight because this and this and that. Don't. Come on, man. Not again. Not again. It's a unification bout. Um, it's must see. It's must make. You know, nobody got no excuse. Fight should be done. No politics in the way. Television networks is easy work to be done.
Let's move on to preview some fights here. It's coming up this weekend. First start in Carson, California. The saga of Triple G vis-a-vis Canelo. We know with that Canelo tested positive
Hey,
from Raw.
Mike,
Go ahead, Jacob.
Mike,
Go
hey,
ahead.
did I don't know. I can't remember. We talked about this last time, but did you guys see the news about Quadros?
The
Uh,
dope. Him being
Yes,
on the
yeah,
shit.
all that one, yeah.
on that.
He so apparently it came out that he checked himself into a rehabilitation center for drugs and alcohol.
Too much Mexican meat.
No, I mean
Yeah, he
apparently he has a big drinking problem and potential drug problems. So and they said that he refused to take the I think after a Royal fight he refused to take the post fight was it piss test.
Yeah, he wishes problems was just meat more than likely. I didn't know the drugs they were saying, but shit, you going to rehab? It's some hard things going on, man. For that at least that's what you think.
Yeah, it's a shame. Quadras is a nice guy. He's a pleasure to work with, but we spotted him before his last fight down the road at the Fighter Hotel just a few hours before the fight. I mean, literally just a few hours before the fight. He was sitting in the restaurant with his trainer, and he had this big-ass bowl of ice cream in front of him and something else on the plate. And what was interesting is I don't think he realized that the same afternoon, Sergey Kovalev was out there talking to the West Coast media in advance of his fight a week down the road. So he decided to come down from Oxnard and check things out and meet the media 2 weeks away. He and I both looked over there and he said, isn't he fighting tonight? I'm like, yeah. We're looking at what the hell he's eating. That was just very odd. Why would somebody need that kind of sugar rush or even want to eat that stuff the night of a fight? He looked terrible. And this doesn't unfortunately surprise me given how sort of raggedy he has looked lately. So I wish him well. This is the best possible thing he could do to get a grip on this now before it gets any worse. And see if he can straighten things out. It happens to a lot of people when they get a little money in their pocket, a little attention, a little fame. He's a big personality. He loved the attention. And I'm thinking a lot of that stuff and a lot of his so-called newfound friends have gotten to him.
HBO exposure.
Yeah. I'm really, really glad he's in rehab before something really bad happened. And it's probably a combination of that. You got money, and let's face it, he hasn't exactly been on the winning streak as of late.
Not recently. And he's a friendly guy. He likes to have a good time. And you get your hands on money. You're a young, good-looking guy. This this is what they used to say when people started snorting coke. God's way of telling you got too much money. You need to get a handle on that fast or it's real out of control. And, we all know he would not be the first boxer to go down this road or the first athlete. It happens to these young guys. So I hope he gets good advice and good help.
Yeah, that's
EJ's still on here, right? EJ, you on here? Primes.
Is EJ asleep again?
We was making jokes.
I'm here. Why you calling me?
You remember the jokes about Nauta and he was whooping all these little fighters while he was on the drugs. So it just, I just gotta say, imagine what the hell he could be if he didn't have this product. I mean, if he comes out and does an interview, said, man, it's going on 5 years, 6 years. It's like I whooped the number one pound for pound guy in some people's minds, or I was high off my ass the week before. That's going to be a good ass story. So just if I'm him, I come out and I'm lying. I'm like, man, I've been addicted for years. I'm clean now, but because it makes my legacy look crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's a story. Like, man, this dude was.
He's a lot of acne on his back. Yeah. When he fought Kit Kat, yeah, he took Kit Kat's title. He had a lot of acne in his back, and then he fought I think the losses done it. I've seen a lot of fighters. They a lot of losses. He's in Mexico. And like, you know, depression does kick in, and you know, they go for a bad way. It happens. De La Hoya, as we know, knife and forks. He's putting knife and forks and baseball bats, you know, wherever. You know, it happens. It does happen, innit? They go for fighters do go for a depression. They do go for a hard stage and stuff like that. And you know, hopefully you get over it. He can come back into the stage, but he's getting through a tough time because I'll be honest with you, he was supposed to fight that Arroyo guy. He was supposed to win that fight. That was a winnable fight for him. Arroyo's lost a lot of notable fights, so. You know, maybe he goes and gets himself clean back up and tries to come in. But he had a lot of acne on his back. And I always suspect that he was taking steroids. And because his fights were always in Mexico, he never used to fight outside there. And maybe, I don't know. And like you just said, he didn't want to take the test. So a lot of places laughing. LP, we laugh.
Funny, bro.
Fucking say he put knife in.
Oh, yeah.
Continue on, EJ. Continue on.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I feel. I've seen it before. I've seen the patterns before that boxing always kind of outplays itself. A lot of fighters, they go through depression over losing. And then maybe it's that because when he was winning, we never heard about that stuff. I'm just saying, the losing streak will do that to you, you know. And then that always happens for guys who have a long undefeated streak, which he did. Because the first loss he got was against Chocolito. And then he was, man, I got robbed. And then they put him in there. Next, and I think it was Estrada whooped Estrada put a beating on him. He was like, oh, then he had no excuses.
No, he fought that other guy before. He was on the undercard of the Golovkin Jacobs.
I think the next loss was Estrada, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, they all been struggle fights, win, lose, or draw.
The next loss was Estrada.
The next loss was Estrada.
Yeah, the next was Estrada, and then he lost against Arroyo, and really, truly should have beat Arroyo, whooped his ass. So he had no excuses. So you're going to go and drink. Yeah, you're going to binge, you're going to be depression because how do you pick yourself up when you've been doing this for years? And, you know, hopefully you get seen and stuff like that. And like I said, I don't want him doing what the Oscar De La Hoya does, you know what I'm saying? So
let's move on before
we're starting getting into TMZ territory here.
Fucking dude made me fall out, man.
Keep your mic open, EJ. I was gonna go with start the previews with Golovkin and Martin Rosen, but I've changed my mind. I'm going to start with Tony Bellew, David Haye, the rematch that's taking place Saturday over in the UK area of the world, London to be specific. What's the vibe over there for the rematch? They had a press conference yesterday. Since then. To set the mood with this rematch coming up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually going to give you some backdrop on David Haye. So I don't think you guys in the States are aware of this. So I'm going to give you some backdrop, and it will help you to understand what happened in the first fight. David Haye, he has his own promotion as Haymaker at the time, and basically him and Adam Booth, they invested some money in Dubai property. And Adam Booth is Turkish, and David Haye was training in Turkey, right? And what happened when he invested the money? A lot of Turkish gangsters, they took his money. I think it was 30 million he took. So he and he played Adam Booth. So because of that situation, he doesn't talk to Adam Booth. They don't talk to him more, even in the same room. They don't talk to each other no more. And obviously, because of the backdrop of the 30 million he lost, obviously consequently had an argument with his wife, and he divorced with his wife. So he took a lot of preliminary fights to try and get the money back. Going into the David Haye, the Tony Bellew, the first fight, when obviously he's in the fight and Tony Bellew knows this situation. So Tony Bellew said, "Oh, David, I don't know how you could lose all that money. What do you do to lose all that money?" And everyone knows, Tony Bellew himself knew that David Haye got robbed by these gangsters. And that's why David Haye went into that fight. And normally he doesn't do that. He tried to kill him because he was so angry about what happened. So he tried to take on Tony Bellew, and consequently his anger caused him to rupture his Achilles tendon and get beat up and basically stopped. Now coming into that, he's had a lot of psychologists and a lot of physiotherapy on his legs, and he's much more relaxed. And he realized, if I become the old David Haye who's relaxed and calm, and I should be able to be in a much more better class. And all Tony Bellew trying to say, I don't care how you think about yourself, I'm going to try and get you in deep waters and let your body break down. So that's more or less the mood of that fight. But the thing is, the subplot of that fight is basically the winner of that fight, they might fight AJ, might fight Wilder, and that's what everyone's talking about. And when you interview Tony Bellew and David Haye, they're basically talking about that fight rather than their own fight, which is crazy because David Haye and Tony Bellew, the second fight is going to be on pay-per-view TV. So that's the sort of things in the background. I'm going to the press conference in a couple of hours, the undercard press conference and the main event press conference in the Plaza Hotel in a couple of hours. And, it's going to be interesting to see what they have to say. But I don't expect David Haye to be saying anything because he's on this whole thing. I'm trying to keep good vibes and not think about, the money. And obviously, because of the gangster situation, that's why he has 24-hour security, David Haye. Because obviously, if he was to mention the gangster situation with the gangsters, they might, try and end his life or stuff like that. That's why he has 24-hour thing. And Tony Bellew knows all this. And that's why he chooses to antagonize him in the public, but he won't actually say it. And so David Haye is not trying to draw to debate. Israel Salas, who's not with Linares or Linares no more, got driving because Israel Salas is a very respectful guy. I'm one of the rare guys to actually interview him. He's also said, he's also got, then Tony Bellew's also got underneath his skin, and he reacted uncharacteristic. He started shouting at Tony Bellew, telling him to shut up and stuff like that. And Tony Bellew's done a good job of upsetting David Haye's camp. So these subplots are going into the fight, but I expect that fight itself is going to be, for first 4 rounds, going to be very stale, and then maybe later on it might live up. But it's very interesting how that fight went, and it's building up pretty well. I think they could have done more media in it, but as you know, Eddie Hearn's swapped with the Wilder and Joshua thing, and I got information from Sky and Adam Sports, and that he's got a meeting with Shelley Finkel next week in New York. And he's got a couple of questions he wants to ask them. So that fight's been moving and looking to have the fight in America. So that's what I've heard recently from Eddie Hearn about what's going to happen. But that fight should be a good fight, Bellew and Haye. And I don't think it should be pay-per-view, but people are going to pay their money. People love to watch it. So we have to find out and watch.
I'm just going to open up the discussion for everybody else here in the panel, in the chat. Your thoughts on this rematch with Tony Bellew and David Haye, specifically, especially, I should say, in light of what EJ just dropped, the information he just dropped on us. Open up your mics, please, folks.
I'm still picking Bellew. I picked him the first fight, and the first fight was a little bit wild and kind of ugly. I mean, I think both guys are towards the end of their career. I wasn't really clamoring for a rematch, but I'm just going with Bellew.
Yeah, I've got to go the same way. Do we think this is a high-level display of skill fight? No. But there are plenty of fights that are worthy because it's entertainment. It's sport. Let them go at it. Enjoy it. Everybody makes some money. Everyone has a good time. Let's hope nobody gets seriously hurt. That's all that really matters.
Scorsese, Daniel, your thoughts?
I'm thinking, he slimmed down a lot, changed the trainer, and I did see some mechanics with the McGuigan, very open stance he was going with. Good for you if you got bad Achilles. Close it up some. I have seen him do that, and he knows he was throwing punches like a wild man. I picked Bellew the last time, so I think it's a fair pick that I'm looking at Haye to maybe get the revenge in the rematch. But, Bellew definitely got a shot. He's dealing with a guy that's been broken before. You might be able to break him again. I'm just leaning Haye.
I want to say Haye, but I can't trust his body at this point. I can't trust his body. I can't trust how his Achilles is going to hold up coming back so short after that kind of significant injury. So I'm gonna lean towards I'm going with Bellew here, even though my heart, if you will, wants David Haye to win. Your thoughts, Daniel?
That's my main worry with David Haye in this fight. once you rupture your Achilles, you are really not the same. Like, you lose a lot of the explosive, you lose a lot of flexibility, you use a lot of speed. And it takes a long time to come back from Achilles injury. Remember, it wasn't that too long ago that an Achilles in a lot of sports was considered a career ender. But so yeah, we've moved on past then, but to me it's too short of a time for David Haye to come back in. Obviously, the situation DJ described, this one that would tax you mentally. At the same time, though, like I said, that Achilles injury, I don't think is gonna help David Haye this coming back this soon. And not to mention that Tony Bellew has a Homer Simpson head. So I can see Bellew winning this. It's probably might be as sloppy as the first fight. And for Bellew's sake, like if he does fight again, go back down to cruiserweight. Go back down to where people are you can actually compete against. Because in heavyweights, if you're trying to go against Joshua, you're trying to go against Wilder, it's not going to look pretty for Tony Bellew.
Some other fights that's happening on this weekend. Let's start with the GGG stuff. I mean, look, we know the saga with him and Canelo. Canelo testing positive for clenbuterol. Took forever and a day, seemingly, for Golovkin to find a substitute opponent. Finally found one in Vanes Martirosyan. Hadn't fought in a good minute. Plus, he's a natural junior middleweight. I'm sorry. Okay, I guess it's a name, recognizable name, but Triple G, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's gonna beat this dude up, and it's just to get over. It's just a fight to get over until we probably see a Canelo rematch in September. Thoughts, anyone?
The real main event for this card is Brockus and Reese, in my opinion. This, like I said, last show, I have my problems with this fight for a variety of reasons. But what we'll talk about later, with I'm sure with the Brockus fight, but I don't expect too much opposition. It'll probably be a fast, stoppage, and then we'll see what he does with his IBF.
Anyone else on this fight between Golovkin and Martirosyan? I'm gonna go to you, Gil. Go ahead, Scorsese. Go ahead.
I don't know what it is about it, but I like the fight. I never seen Vanes be a punk. And he's talking about he's gonna come forward. He don't got slow feet. I wouldn't say he got slow hands either. I hate the inactivity, but personally, I like the damn fight. If he's what he's trying to sell is I'm coming to get it from Golovkin. If that's what I'm gonna see, I'm down for it. I don't know. I cannot explain to you why. I can't. I can tell you, if he does what he's saying he's gonna do, it's gonna shock a lot of people, and I want to see it. I've been counting down the days to the 5th. Like really, I want to see this fight.
There is no question that Vanes will bring it. Does he have enough to bring? He's been out of the ring a long time. Although he is a taller guy than Golovkin, he is naturally smaller. When you see him standing together, it is surprising that he's about an inch taller. Listen, this was making the best of a bad situation. People get to go see a fight. They get to go to StubHub on Cinco de Mayo, and this week, the actual holiday is on the Saturday. So people are going to get to see their entertainment. Having to put this card together and promote it in 2.5 weeks is nothing short of a miracle, truly. And people can just crap on this fight and bitch and moan and get mad about it and whine all they want. But you know what? It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be fun. The tickets are priced right. Nobody has to pay for a pay-per-view. It's on HBO, regular HBO. And there are very few opportunities to see anyone in boxing at the level Golovkin is and the level Brockus is that close for that little money. And everyone who's there, well, 85% of the people there, and I'm sure Jacob, who's a regular StubHub like I am, will agree, most people who are there drive in from the immediate area. You know, the population base is so big. So what's not to like about that from a fan's standpoint? To me, nothing. It's a great deal for everybody. I love it. I don't have to drive my ass to Vegas. I'm sitting at home in San Diego. I can drive up there, and I could drive up there Friday night and have 2 nights of fights back to back at StubHub for, anybody buying a ticket. It's not hard on your wallet. They've also ginned up through Tecate a big fan fest on Saturday, which starts at 3 p.m. Local time. The card itself starts at 7. The televised part of the card starts at 8 o'clock Pacific. Now, that is late for everybody on the East Coast. I get that. You may have to watch this Saturday morning if you're out having a good time yourself. But listen, this is absolutely the best of what turned out to be a crummy situation. And everybody who's present on Saturday night had nothing to do with the way it went down. It's not their fault. So I salute them. I support it. I'll be there. It'll be fun. Vanes may very well, get his ass beat, but he'll give it absolutely his best. He's excited about it, and good for him.
Give some quick comments here in the chat. The chat is pretty active this evening. Rambo9 in the chat says Bellew, he knocks out David Haye in the 6th round. Realistic Boxing says Bellew is just as inactive as David Haye. Mr. Doc, shout out to Mr. Jock. He responds by saying, depends on how much of this explosiveness David Haye has lost from the Achilles injury, combined with his body holding up during the fights. Rambo9 said that Michael Garcia, he beat Sean Porter. Mr. Doc says Easter willingly surrenders his physical advantages in the process. In the process, therefore, he relinquishes control and reigns. Tony Man2C, Vanes may have to stand by his word of fighting Triple G because he can't be in peak shape. Mr. Doc, I'm a Golovkin fan, and Gail's cool as hell, but personally, I wouldn't watch that card. Watch that card live for free. To each is their own. Golovkin gonna beat up. I'm not gonna say that. Beat up. I'm not gonna say what he said the last comment. I'll go to you, EJ, and Daniel. Your thoughts on Triple G and Vanes?
Yeah, I'll go first, man. I'm not interested, but I'll watch the fight. Triple G I enjoy Triple G knocking out. I expect a knockout of the year. That's all I gotta say.
Simple and to the point. I like that. Daniel, your thoughts?
Well, like Jacob, I do have my issues with the fight. Primarily that this win will tie Hopkins' record for consecutive title defenses at middleweight. But at the same time, it's like it's the best of a bad situation. It's obvious now that with Canelo out and with K2 having to put the money up, they didn't have the money to attract somebody that's pretty good competition. So they went with a local guy, Monterosian. I think hasn't fought since President Obama was in the White House. And and ultimately, this is going to become like probably a highlight reel knockout. I don't expect anything more from Monterosian, unfortunately. He does have good hand speed. He does have good feet. But he's spent his entire career pretty much at junior middleweight.
Yeah, he mostly has. But there is the other X factor that I forgot to mention. He's promoted by, say it with me, everybody, Don King.
Only in America. Only in America.
Oh yeah. Are we gonna see an appearance of Don King at the StubHub? Oh yeah. Oh,
you're gonna see, yeah.
Hell yeah.
You know what we might see is there's a pretty big Armenian fan base close right there in
There's a
Glendale.
huge Armenian fan base. There's a whole enclave of Armenians in Glendale where Martirosyan is. Absolutely.
Right. So that could
they'll
be
there
that
like
could be
crazy.
that could be a little side note.
Yeah.
Little side note, yeah. That thing overwhelmingly Triple G fans though.
There will, but you know what? Everybody tips their hat to Vanes for taking the fight because nobody else would. He has thrown himself, full-fledged into the promotion. He's done everything they've asked of him. And he's been cheerful about it. He's excited. He's genuinely enthusiastic about it. I'm sure he sold a ton of seats. And the thing that we've all been laughing about is something he said at the media day, which was that by coincidence, he'd been sitting around at home with his wife and got into some idle conversation with her and said, so, like, beside me, who's your favorite fighter? And she said, I think that guy Golovkin. I think I really like him. So here he is, going to fight his wife's other favorite fighter besides him. And he said, yeah, now I really have to kick his ass. And he just laughed. So, he
has nothing to lose in this situation.
He has, you know what? Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. That's the smartest thing I've heard on the show tonight. He has nothing to lose. He gets the $400,000 payday that Spike O'Sullivan turned down, which is good money after having been out of the ring for 2 years. If he even survives, if he looks halfway good at all, this is great exposure for him. He was all but forgotten. Believe me, I'm sure outside the 100-mile radius around Glendale, California, Vanes Martirosyan was pretty much forgotten. This is great for him.
And I did have a quick question for these guys because I asked it yesterday with Jeremy Francis. Because of the lateness, because of the type of opponent, is there a chance that you guys see that Triple G might overlook Vanes a little bit and make him look better than what a normal Triple G would?
It could happen. He could have a Monroe type of performance where he sticks with them and, maybe Triple G loses some rounds, because Martirosyan's, moving and using his footwork and his hands, his speed. Because Triple G, let's not forget, he's older, he's slower. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He'll hunt you down like a goddamn Terminator, but and he's good at cutting off the ring, but he's not a fast guy in general. So it could happen. I don't think it will happen, but it could.
I see fun while it lasts. Vanes is open, but if he opens up his offense, he might see that Triple G's open to him, and then it becomes fire versus a lighter. And Triple G might light his ass up after that, but I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. I hope Vanes' heart is fine with that, and he has been at 154, and he's fought Lara, who some consider that straight left hand is very powerful and very sharp. He just ate it and came and got it, so that's what I'm hoping I see. Fun while it lasts, and it lasts longer than expected, and no complaints from me. I think Mike dropped out.
I think he did drop out. So
he's back.
He's back. Michael, we're just about to take over for you. On the and I no doubt where we be going moving on after this is to the co-main event on the undercard, which is women's unified welterweight champion.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yep. Yes,
okay,
we
I'm
can.
I'm back.
There you
I'm
go.
back. What I was going to say is, Jacob, you kind of stole my point. I don't think it's a case of Golovkin losing focus. I think you could see more Triple G showing signs that he's getting older, more than the issue of losing focus, because he's older, and coupled with the fact that Vanes tends to move a lot. People could look, especially if Triple G doesn't make easy work of him and it goes the distance. I think the argument someone could make after the fight that Triple G is slowing down more to the point of him just losing focus. Let's move on. I think Gail went to where I was planning to go, talking about the undercard. Big time event for women's boxing here. Cecilia Braekhus fighting Callie Reese, who was a former champion at middleweight. This fight is at welterweight. Braekhus defending her welterweight titles. I'll go to you, Gail, since you was able to not only meet Cecilia Braekhus at the little media thing for Triple G and Golovkin and Monterosen. As Bo was said earlier, you was fortunate enough to get a photo with Cecilia Braekhus. So I'm gonna start with you to your preview of this fight.
So for those who don't know about Cecilia Braekhus and her place in women's boxing, Braekhus is the current unified women's welterweight champion. Women's weight divisions are exactly the same as the men. So 147 pounds, just like every other welterweight. Her nickname's the First Lady of Boxing. She is ethnically from Colombia, but was raised in Norway. So she is a Colombian Norwegian. She speaks Norwegian, but she speaks English and Spanish. She's, a complete woman of the world in that way. And I believe she is currently one of the few completely unified weight division champions in women's boxing. I wouldn't swear to it. I think there may be a Japanese fighter or two who's unified. But
in boxing, not just women's boxing.
Right. Well, right now that Terrence Crawford has abandoned his belts to go up to a welterweight himself, interestingly enough, you're probably right there. So she may be the only existing unified champion. So that's five belts for her. 5 belts. Very impressive. And she has been the 5 belts unified division champion for, let's see, she's had all 5 titles for 2 years. For 2 years now.
What's the fifth one that you're counting?
And she had 4 before that. So she's a powerhouse. She's 36 years old, which that's not unusual in women's boxing because they have so few bouts. She's 32-0, 9 knockouts, and just an acknowledged star. This is a woman who puts 15,000 seats in arenas in Europe. She's an absolute star. She's headlined cards there numerous times. But like a lot of the women, she has trouble getting opponents. And what's been very interesting backstory for her is in Norway, women's bouts are prohibited from even taking place up until recently. She had never fought in her own country, but last year she finally did. The restrictions were finally lifted, and it was a blockbuster event. Big deal. So this is Braekhus' first fight in the United States. She's represented by the same
second fight.
Second fight in the United States.
He fought it, I think, in Florida, Hollywood, Florida, I think.
I'd have to check that. It's his first one in a long time. You know what? She fought she did fight in Hollywood, Florida, 10 years ago. 10 years ago. So, and that was before she had any titles. So this is a big deal. And it really is amazing to realize after all the decades of coverage of boxing by HBO, it is the first women's bout they've aired. Well, they certainly picked a good one to start with. No question about it. Her opponent is a woman named Kelly Reese. Kelly is an American from Rhode Island, of all things. She is the number 1 rated women's welterweight in America and number 2 ranking overall behind Braekhus. So it's a great matchup. But she has fought a lot of her career at a lower weight. Or at middleweight, at middleweight. So she is coming down in weight to take this fight. She's 31. She's a tiny bit taller than Brackus. She's going to have her hands full, for sure. It's not quite as lopsided a matchup as Martirosyan and Golovkin. It's a little closer than that. She's held titles, but she's going to have a lot to deal with. Brackus is fierce. She's a puncher. This is yet again one of the reasons I'd really like to see the women fight 3-minute rounds, just like the men. I am confident that Brackus' knockout rate would go way up if she had that same 3rd minute the men do to finish the job. That's why the knockout rate for a lot of the women is so low, because they're only fighting 2-minute rounds. Someday someone needs to crunch the numbers and find out what difference that would make against, for example, the men. You're going to be treated to seeing a great fight, very exciting performer. And what's also very interesting, in the arena that night at StubHub, watching Brackus fight will be Ronda Rousey, who trains at the same gym as Martirosyan, so they're pals, and Chris Cyborg will also be there. And it's fairly well known that, sort of like her male counterpart, Mr. McGregor, Cyborg has been calling out Brackus. And Brackus has not blown off the possibility that she might fight Cyborg someday. So she's not dismissing that. So enjoy seeing her while you can. She's coming to the end of her career, but I think she's going to give it a few more years and really go out with a bang, especially if she makes a good impression on Saturday.
I'm going to open up the discussion here to everybody else. Your thoughts on Cecilia Brackus fighting in the States and HBO deciding to air the bout.
Is Ronda Rousey trying to box? Simple.
Oh, stop it.
Ronda Rousey is going to jump off the top, the corner ropes and go for a little slam.
Well, I'll tell you what, do not be surprised if she is part of the ring walk with Martirosyan. That's certainly very possible.
I mean, stop it. She went to WWE because she couldn't handle it mentally anymore with the MMA. What makes you think she's gonna get in the boxing? Stop.
She's there. I was just wondering if there's any.
No.
Oh hell no! No.
Vince McMahon is not gonna let her fight.
Oh, she signed out. Okay, I was just because I remember the boxing clip she had that was hilarious to me. So
it should be a great fight. It should be a great fight. I see Candice here. She fought Hannah Gabriels, and I loved Hannah Gabriels is fighting Clarissa Shields coming up. I would have loved them two to fight because she was at 154 and they actually talked. And she's coming down, but I think actually she fought at that weight class before. She's fought there before. She's a very good boxer. I was going to interview her actually. She's Native American as well, and she'll give Brackus a stern test. She's much slower. Punch power, not really. Brackus is fast. Brackus got all the advantages, but you never know. Could age catch up with her and could Callis do her? I don't know, but definitely a very good fight. Very easy match and a good debut. Definitely, Callis is going to be there. She's going to be there. She's a Native American. She's very proud, and Cesar Brackus, obviously from Denmark over there, and our boxing got banned over there, and yeah, man, I think it's a good debut, and she's been with Jonathan Banks for a minute as well, because Jonathan Banks with the Klitschko's as well, and that's sad. And she doesn't talk to the Sauerlands no more. The Sauerlands used to promote her, and they had a really big, really legal battle about. I think she wanted her own control, and the Sauerlands kind of didn't want to let go, and it was really nasty and stuff like that. So she's happy she's got free range, and hey, you know what? Maybe she does a couple more defenses. I'm not going to say she's just come over to this have one defense and call it a day. I think she might have a couple. You know what? The dream match, really for her. I swear, her and Clarissa Shields, man. I'd love to see that fight, boy. That fight would be great. Or Hannah Gabriels, if Hannah Gabriels beat Clarissa Shields. Any of them two. That's the fights I like.
Though Brackus, I don't think Brackus is big enough, though.
Yeah, but
she's a welterweight, and
they find a catch. thing is 154, so it's not that much.
Yeah, it would
I
happen.
don't know. I don't know about that. I mean,
But I don't think
Shields, she begins her career at 68. She's talking about going down to middleweight. No, that's too much of a weight drop for even her.
And believe me, standing next to both of them, Shields is way, way bigger than Brockus. Way bigger. That's now more likely, and I've heard this. The discussion I've heard many times is a fight between Brockus and Katie Taylor. And that seems much more realistic to me.
Katie Taylor, she's a lightweight.
Same thing. You got same thing again. You have that's less of a weight difference between Brockus and Taylor than there is between Brockus and Shields or Hammer. So
I doubt it, man. That one there, no. That thing you were having for lunch, I doubt that one. But yeah, hey, listen, there's some good fights out there around them weights. There, I just hope so. She stays around because you don't want to do your debut on American TV and just disappear with all them belts. Let the people.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But Father Time marches, on the women as well. It's just really tough.
Yeah, Mother Time, innit? Mother Nature.
But she's going to at least get a little piece of it before she ends her career. Thank goodness, and she almost didn't. So I'm grateful for the exposure and grateful for her opportunities. I don't know, AJ. I think it's going to be Taylor long before she faces anyone like
Taylor. Taylor's quite old though, Taylor's like 30 something. Like, see Hannah Gabriel's in the Carissa Shields.
Brockus is older than she is.
Yeah, the Hannah Gabriel's battle, because she was a unified at 154. Them two actually talked on a radio station. That was one thing. Maybe this.
But the women don't fight as often because of the lack of competition at the elite level. So they are fresher. Brockus is going to be 37 in September. So, there are women's champions in their 40s, and they're just not that unusual. She could easily fight 2 or 3 more years, and Taylor as well.
You know what I was hoping for, because the HBO opened it up. They got Mariana the Barber Suarez from Mexico. I was hoping to bring some of the others on HBO as well, and I think it's good they're opening up to women boxers. I cover women boxing. I'm probably the only guy who probably does it, in terms of commentary and everything. And I've been watch all of them, I watch all them women boxers, all the weights and stuff like that. And it'd be very interesting if they open up to more women boxing in film, because women boxing is pretty good. It needs the exposure, like you said, girl, and hopefully this is the start of many more. So let's
get everybody else in the discussion. Daniel, Jacob, Scorsese, your thoughts on the not technical debut of Cecilia Brækhus, but kind of HBO debut. The first time a lot of people will see Cecilia Brækhus in the ring.
Better late than never. You say better late than never, because in this generation, Cecilia Brækhus has been the best overall women's fighter. Now, the issue that's probably going to be telling is, to me, what crowd is going to show up. Because, like Gail mentioned, she did grow up in Norway, but she was born in Colombia. And if you watch Spanish broadcast of her fight, Mexican broadcast of her fight, they don't mention her being raised in Norwegian at all. They just call her Colombian. She's Colombian. They just go like Colombiana. It's going to be interesting to see if there is a pretty decent crowd there to show up there. Maybe some of the crowd that's there for Golovkin that's going to be like Mexican fans, maybe will siphon off and side with Brækhus, because, like I said, I mentioned, she was born in Colombia, so she's technically Latina. But it's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be a good debut. They have to do it because Showtime has been mopping the floor with them in women's boxing for the past 2 years. And ultimately,
PBC has had more women's boxing.
Right.
Yep. Yep. Like I said, they've been mopping the floor with HBO. It's about time too, because between the Arroyo sisters, between now, like I said, the Marlon's career is actually starting to shape up pretty well. Christina Hammer, Clarissa Shields, pretty much almost all of those fighters. Kyler Hardy too, when she decides to come back. have been the exclusive, pretty much playing field of Showtime PBC. You can't allow that, especially when you're HBO and you are getting few fights few and far between. You are getting outpaced by ESPN, and you are getting outpaced by Showtime. So that's something good for HBO, and it's good to see Cecilia Braekhus going into it, because I agree with Gail. The Katie Taylor fight is a little bit more reasonable than the Clarissa Shields fight, unless they meet at junior middleweight.
Scorsese, Jacobs, your thoughts?
So for me, I mean, I'm super excited to go to be able to see her live. I'll be there. But I don't want to give HBO too much credit, because the underlining story here is that Chocolatito was supposed to have his return, and he was supposed to be the co-main event. But because of visa problems, he wasn't able to get that cleared up, and so that moved Braekhus. It kind of forced HBO's hand to in order a bad situation that we talked about before, but kind of forced their hand to move Braekhus to the co-main event. Because everybody else on the card, I mean, they're not. There's nobody else that's really like well known. I've seen a couple of them before. Ryan Martin, he's one of Tom Loeffler's. I think it's Blue Chip is his nickname, but he's one of his big fighters, and he headlined the first 360 promotion at the Avalon, and but I think HBO is in this instance is getting a little bit too much credit, because if Chocolatito would have if the visa problem wouldn't happen, I don't know that we see this Braekhus fight on TV.
I think that's possible, although you're only going to see 2 TV fights. And given that you don't think we're going to see 12 rounds out of Golovkin and Martirosyan, and you might not even see that many rounds out of Braekhus and Reese, who knows? They could have fit in 3 fights easily. I think you're going to see a very padded couple of hours with 2 fights.
Yeah, I expect a lot. Yeah, you got to expect a lot of video packages. You're going to expect a lot of like probably back and forth about the Canelo situation. And they might even do some, if they're smart, they might do some interviews with like previous people. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing like Layla Ali Stotts and Cecilia Braekhus on HBO. Because it's literally, like I said, the woman that was the star attraction before, in a generation where it wasn't taken as seriously, talking about the person that helped push women's boxing a little bit to the mainstream. I would like to see some good thoughts on that, because they need to do some padding on this, unless they're really, really banking on the Braekhus fight going 12 rounds, so that way they can finish with a big bang with Golovkin. Otherwise, yes, like I said, it'll be a very, very short broadcast for HBO, but that might actually help with StubHub, because they're going to be busy the night before, so they might want to get a little bit of a rest.
Any word on the Scorsese, or you just, yeah? I don't think he's here. He may have dipped out. So I think we're going to start to shut the show down on that note. No other boxing thing? No. Start shutting the show down. That's not going to go around now.
Well, there's the card, like Daniel just said. There's the card, the Friday night, which I'll also be at. So back-to-back fights at the StubHub, which I think is a first for them.
Yeah, this is Friday night. Is the it's the Fallout card. It's all
I was going to say, that's substitute.
All the guys that were supposed to be on the original Golovkin Canelo 2 undercard in Las Vegas. So those guys were left high and dry by the fight, breaking up too. So Golden Boy moved all of them over to StubHub on the Friday night before. So your televised fight is on ESPN that night on Friday, starting at 10 o'clock Eastern. The card starts at 7. Card starts at, I think, 8:30 Eastern, something like that. Anyway, your two televised fights are Ryan Garcia and Spike O'Sullivan, who was offered the Golovkin fight, didn't like the money, turned down a verified $400,000 payday to go up against Golovkin, and instead will be one of the co-main fights Friday night. So it'll be should be fun. There's only 5 fights on the card. So, a local women's fighter, Sinicia Estrada, was added to that card on Friday. I don't think she's getting any TV time, but Golden Boy will stream it. They'll stream the whole thing, so you can get a look at it there. I am very much liking all the streaming we're seeing going on. This is a good trend, and anymore you're really able to see almost full cards as long as they're not pay-per-views via stream. And what you'll also get to see, if you haven't seen Garcia, he's fun to watch. He's flashy. He's barely 20 years old. And the kid has become the Justin Bieber of boxing.
Is that the dude who fought on?
Girls love this guy.
Yeah, is that the dude who fought on ESPN just a few weeks, less than a month ago or so? And the thirst trap for the ladies on Twitter was just doggone barely out of almost out of control.
You know what? I swear to God, I would not be surprised on Friday night if you see panties being thrown in the ring. I'm not kidding. He's a good-looking dude. The ladies love him, and I think he loves the ladies. He's a really big personality, and so far he's had the action to back it up. So he's facing Jason Velez, and that's a good matchup for a young guy like him. And he's a knockout artist.
It is.
But he is a little rough around the edges. So we'll see what he's got to offer. But he is very fun to watch.
Yep. And goes into the pattern of Golden Boy. Like, they don't give their prospects, like, very easy fights. Like Jason Velez is no joke.
They like to test them. They get them to a certain point of and then they say, you know what, kid, we sink or swim. We're not going to keep putting money into you and spending time on you and backing you up if all that's going to happen is you get into your first big fight and you crash and burn. You need to prove yourself early, and as long as you keep producing, we'll keep investing in you. So here we go. Yeah, he fought Fernando Vargas at Fantasy Springs on March 22nd, and
blitzed him.
And he did. He has had a lot of first and second round knockouts. So this is a kid you do want to be in your seat the minute the first bell sounds with him. He also last year on the Canelo Triple G undercard scorched a guy that actually wasn't on the undercard. He fought the night before, and he scorched a dude in 30 seconds. It was
and then he was on the undercard at the Forum when I believe it was Smith versus Barrera.
That's right, in December.
And Mira versus
that was a second round knockout. Yeah, his last KO was a first rounder at 2:55 of the round. So he fought 3 minutes. But he went 8 rounds the fight before that. That's the first time in his entire professional career he'd fought more than 4 rounds. So be interesting to see what Velez does with him. And it's a 10-round fight. It's scheduled as a 10-round fight. It would be good for Garcia to go a few rounds. He needs some mileage.
Yeah, I think we're going to start shutting this show down on that note. I'm going to go around the panel here. First of all, I want to thank everybody who joined us in the live chat. Gus, Bo, Mr. Doc, Champ Ross, Tony Man, 2C, Fink. I guess I know some others I'm missing. Rambo 9, Realistic Boxing. Thank all those folks for joining us in the chat. I'm going to go around the panel here. Let's begin the show starting with ladies first. Going to end the show starting with ladies first. Dale from Communities Digital News. For folks who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk Game of Thrones, Dancing with the Stars, PR work, small business, the environments. Let the folks know where they can find you.
All Athletes Edition, Dancing with the Stars, going on right now. Johnny Damon goes home the first week, though. Damn, that's too bad. You can find me on Communities Digital News. My regular column is there. COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I, News. ComDigiNews.com. And I'll see y'all at the fights. Have a happy Cinco de Mayo weekend.
And next week, fingers crossed, Ladies Love Boxing show. We do a show every year of all women on the show with yours truly talking boxing. The tentative plan, fingers crossed, hopefully everything goes through, is to have the show next week. So be on the lookout for that. Join us live from the UK, where he will be at the final press conference for Tony Bellew, David Haye rematch, EJ Boxing Live. For the folks who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk basketball, because you coach basketball as well. Let the people know where to hit you up.
Yeah, I know. I don't coach basketball no more, man. I coach boxing now, so that's what I do. But that's I have to update you. I used to coach basketball, but now, yeah, EJ Boxing Live. Catch me on Twitter, EJ Boxing Live on Instagram, and you can also catch me EJ Live on YouTube, where I'll be posting up the undercard press conference later on today and the main press conference.
And check out his YouTube and especially his Instagram pages. He's been posting pics as well as interviews during the lead up for Bellew Haye, who's been doing an excellent job with that. Scorsese, as I mentioned, he was on the show earlier. Give a shout out to him. If you want to check him out on G Plus YouTube, his channel, Low Place, hashtag MLPF. If you want to check him out on Twitter, it's at My Low Place. So there you go. Thanks to him for joining us on the show earlier. Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk boxing, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially the Miami Heat, or for those who want to check him out, Clap Back Against Fools on Twitter. Let them know where to hit you up.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter, Ruckus99. You can catch the podcast with me, Joe Francis, for boxingnews.com, both on SoundCloud and on forboxingnews.com. Like I said, Francis is going to be part of that Ladies Love Boxing show. She's really excited about that. And a little bit of news coming out just came in. We were talking about Luis Neer in the beginning of the show. He's coming back June 9th and will be at bantamweight.
Where's the fight?
It's going to be in California at the Viejas Casino. So it'll be right up your alley, Gail.
Oh, wow.
Viejas.
Wait, that's the same night as the Mares Santa Cruz rematch.
Yep.
That's very interesting. That is not a customary venue for fights. There have been some club level fights there, but I think it's been 10, 15 years since there was a major card there. It's along the lines of Fantasy Springs Casino, for folks that are familiar with that. We will check that out and get back to you all, because I do know the folks there. So that's very interesting. And very interesting that it is not south of the border in Mexico, which is where he has been fighting. He's based in Tijuana. So,
Yeah, that's interesting. Last but certainly not least, Jacob from Jabwood Boxing, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me on the show. Shout out to everybody listening, and Gus. Gus does a Corruption in Boxing YouTube channel, so go check that out. I think he just released a video on a recap of the Magdaleno Dogbo fight. And then shout out to Bo from Truth and Facts. But I could be found at JRATM23 on Twitter, and I just did an episode of Wrong Reel, which is a movie podcast that should be releasing soon on the Films. If you want to catch me on Twitter or catch me at the fights, I'll be at the StubHub on both Friday and Saturday. So come join me and Gail, and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, I gotta check out Rome Real and see if they've done anything on Avengers. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but Thanos.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They just did an episode of Infinity War. They recapped the whole thing, but
yeah, I'm not gonna spoil Infinity War, but Thanos. Yeah.
I just watched
That's
it a
all I
couple
got to say.
hours ago. I just watched it like 2 hours ago as well. I'm
No spoilers,
Oh, no,
EJ. No spoilers. No spoilers.
I ain't saying nothing. I ain't saying nothing.
Yeah, I might go see that this weekend. And from all I've heard, when it comes to this fight, people have left and saying like, I need to see that again because I'm stressed out.
Yeah, that is just it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. For those who want to follow me, check me out on Twitter. You know what it is. My personal Twitter, brother JR76. As I said earlier to begin the show, I should say, if you want to check out all info regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the place to go to, p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. You check the right of the blog page, you will find not only the links to our pages and channels on G+, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, also links to where to listen to the show, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. Also, on the lower right-hand part of the page, middle right-hand part of the page, I should say, you can check out my link to my Beachbody online coach. I am a Beachbody coach. So there you go. If you like what you've heard, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud. Hit that subscribe button on iTunes and SoundCloud. If you like what you heard here, leave a review on iTunes. If you get a high review, 5-star review, especially, I'll read it on the show. So there you go. On the next episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, we will do a recap of, and whoever got the noise in the background, please mute it, please. We will do a preview. We will do a recap, of Golovkin and Monterose, and we will do a recap of Cecilia Braekhus and her fight with Callie Reese, as well as Bellew Hay rematch. And like I said, next week the plan is to have the Ladies Love Boxing show. We will talk about that, as well as talk about the upcoming showdown. One of the more highly anticipated bouts of the year. Jorge Linares defending his lightweight belt against Vasyl Lomachenko, who a lot of people feel is the #1 fighter in the world, pound for pound. Also, we'll do a preview of Saddam Ali, his fight against Mangulia, defending his junior middleweight belt, as well as Ray Vargas. He's defending his belt on the undercard of Saddam Ali's bout as well. So, yeah, for Gail from Communities Digital News, for Scorsese, for EJ Boxing Live, for Jacob, for Daniel. Again, thanks to everybody who joined us and was listening and who left their comments in the live chat. Gus, Bo, Fink, Mr. Doc, who else? Tony Two-Man, Champ Ross, everybody, thank you for listening live. Episode 207 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. I'm your host, Michael. Again, fingers crossed, Ladies Love Boxing show going down next week. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.